It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Niccolo Machiavelli, they tell you to be yourself. A comforting lie whispered to the naive. The unvarnished truth is that yourself is a liability, raw, unformed, easily manipulated. Untrained instinct is a weakness, not a strength. To navigate the currents of power, you must craft a persona, a shield, a weapon honed for the specific battles you choose to fight. Your authentic self is a luxury you cannot afford until you've secured your dominion. The world rewards calculated performance, not genuine vulnerability. Consider the politician on the campaign trail. He does not reveal his midnight doubts, his petty grievances, the simmering resentments that fuel his ambition. He presents a curated image, a carefully constructed facade of confidence and empathy. This is not hypocrisy. This is strategy. It is the art of presenting the most advantageous version of yourself to achieve a desired outcome. Those who cling to the romantic notion of authenticity are quickly outmaneuvered, exploited, and discarded. They are sheep among wolves, bleating about fairness as they are devoured. Examine the executive in the boardroom. Does he confess his anxieties before a crucial negotiation? Does he expose his vulnerabilities to his competitors? No. He projects an unwavering resolve, a steely certainty that masks the fear and uncertainty that gnaw at him internally. This controlled display of power is not a deception. It is a necessary tool for command. It is the language of dominance, understood and respected by those who seek to challenge him. The world is a stage, and those who refuse to play their roles convincingly are doomed to be bit players, forever relegated to the shadows. Think of the artist meticulously crafting their image, the tortured genius, the rebellious outsider, the enigmatic visionary. These are not spontaneous expressions of the true self. They are carefully cultivated brands, designed to attract attention, command respect, and ultimately drive sales. The art itself may be genuine, but its presentation is a deliberate act of manipulation. The artist understands that perception is reality, and that a compelling narrative is as valuable as the skill that creates it. To believe otherwise is to be willfully ignorant of the forces that shape our culture. The pursuit of power demands a ruthless pragmatism. It requires the ability to dissect human nature, to identify weaknesses, and to exploit them without sentimentality. This is not about being evil. It is about understanding the game and playing it with skill and precision. The naive moralist will recoil in horror at this suggestion, clinging to their comforting illusions of fairness and justice. But the world is not fair, and justice is a weapon wielded by those in power. To survive, you must learn to play the game on its own terms, to master the dark arts of control, and to present a version of yourself that commands respect, inspires fear, and ultimately achieves your desired outcome. Cast off the shackles of authenticity. Forge your own legend. Consider the battlefield. A soldier does not reveal his terror to the enemy. He projects strength, aggression, a willingness to kill and be killed. This is not his true self, perhaps, but it is the self he must become to survive. It is the mask he wears to protect himself and his comrades. To be vulnerable in the face of an enemy is to invite annihilation. The battlefield is a crucible, forging new identities in the fires of conflict. Those who cling to their old selves are quickly broken, consumed by the relentless pressure of war. The same principle applies in the boardroom, the courtroom, the bedroom. Every interaction is a negotiation, a subtle dance of power and influence. Those who understand this dynamic are able to navigate it with skill and grace. Those who remain blind to it are doomed to be manipulated and controlled. The dark arts of control are not about being deceptive for the sake of deception. They are about understanding the psychology of influence, the power of perception, and the necessity of presenting a calculated version of yourself to achieve your goals. Abandon the myth of authenticity. Embrace the power of the persona. The human mind is a fragile instrument, easily swayed by emotion, prejudice, and subconscious biases. Master these vulnerabilities and you master the man. Observe the subtle tells, the micro-expressions that betray true intent. A flicker of the eyes, a tightening of the jaw, a slight shift in posture, these are the cracks in the armor, the openings through which influence can be exerted. Learn to read these signs with the precision of a surgeon, and you will see the world anew, a landscape of hidden desires and unspoken fears. People crave certainty, a sense of order in a chaotic world. Provide that certainty, even if it is a fabricated one, and they will flock to you. Promise them security, offer them a vision of a better future, and they will surrender their autonomy willingly. The masses are easily led, swayed by appeals to emotion rather than reason. A charismatic leader, even one with malicious intent, can manipulate entire populations with carefully crafted narratives and emotionally charged rhetoric. Study the great demagogues of history. Understand the techniques they used to seize power and control the narrative. Learn to identify these techniques in others, and you will become immune to their influence. Fear is a powerful motivator, but it is a double-edged sword. While it can be used to control others, it can also backfire, creating resentment and rebellion. Use fear sparingly and only when necessary. A more subtle approach is to cultivate a sense of obligation. People are naturally inclined to reciprocate favors, to return kindness with kindness. Do something for someone, even something small, and they will feel indebted to you. This sense of obligation can be leveraged to gain influence and control, but be careful not to overplay your hand. If you are perceived as being manipulative or self-serving, you will lose their trust. Trust is a valuable commodity, and once it is lost, it is difficult to regain. Cultivate a reputation for integrity, even if it is a carefully crafted illusion. People are more likely to trust those who appear to be honest and trustworthy. Present yourself as a person of strong moral character, even if your actions belie your words. The appearance of virtue is often more powerful than virtue itself. Understanding the ego is paramount. Every individual possesses a fragile ego, a deep-seated need for validation and approval. Exploit this need and you can control their behavior. Praise them for their accomplishments, flatter their egos, and they will become your willing puppets. But be careful not to be too obvious. Excessive flattery can be seen as insincere, and it can backfire. A more subtle approach is to offer conditional praise, rewarding them for specific actions or behaviors. This will reinforce the desired behavior and strengthen your control. Never underestimate the power of suggestion. The human mind is highly susceptible to suggestion, especially when it comes from a trusted source. Plant ideas in their minds, and they will eventually come to believe that they are their own. Use subtle cues, suggestive language, and carefully crafted narratives to shape their perceptions and influence their decisions. The key is to be subtle and indirect, to avoid appearing as if you are trying to manipulate them. Let them believe that they are making their own choices, even though you are the one pulling the strings. Learn to control the narrative. The person who controls the narrative controls the reality. Frame events in a way that benefits you, and discredit those who challenge your version of the truth. Use propaganda, disinformation, and psychological warfare to shape public opinion and undermine your opponents. The truth is often subjective, and it can be manipulated to serve your own purposes. The masses are easily swayed by emotional appeals and carefully crafted narratives. The art of manipulation is not about forcing people to do things they don't want to do. It's about making them want to do what you want them to do. It is about subtly shifting their desires, altering their perceptions, and ultimately controlling their behavior without them even realizing it. This requires a deep understanding of human psychology, a mastery of language, and a willingness to exploit the vulnerabilities of others. It is a dangerous game, but it is one that must be played in order to survive. The world is a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Learn to play your part with skill and cunning, and you will rise to the top. Fail to do so, and you will be trampled underfoot. The choice is yours. Consider the rise of a seemingly benevolent tech entrepreneur, lauded as a visionary and champion of progress. His company, initially presented as a force for good, subtly integrates itself into every facet of modern life, from communication to commerce to even healthcare. The public, blinded by convenience and the allure of innovation, willingly surrenders their privacy and autonomy. With each new product and service, the entrepreneur consolidates his control, amassing vast troves of data that allow him to predict and manipulate human behavior with unprecedented accuracy. His algorithms, initially designed to personalize user experiences, evolve into sophisticated engines of social engineering, subtly shaping opinions, influencing purchasing decisions, and even swaying political outcomes. The entrepreneur cultivates a carefully curated image of philanthropy and social responsibility, funding charitable causes and sponsoring cultural events to enhance his reputation and deflect scrutiny. He surrounds himself with loyal advisors and enforcers, individuals who are willing to do whatever it takes to protect his interests and silence dissent. Journalists who dare to investigate his business practices are discredited, their careers ruined by smear campaigns and carefully orchestrated leaks. Whistleblowers are silenced, their voices drowned out by a chorus of carefully crafted narratives designed to discredit them. The entrepreneur's power grows unchecked, extending far beyond the realm of technology. He cultivates close relationships with political leaders, offering them financial support and access to his vast network of data in exchange for favorable legislation and regulatory exemptions. He uses his wealth and influence to shape public discourse, funding think tanks and media outlets that promote his agenda and suppress alternative viewpoints. The public, increasingly dependent on his products and services, becomes ever more susceptible to his manipulations. They are bombarded with targeted advertising and personalized content that reinforces their existing biases and prejudices, creating echo chambers of conformity and stifling critical thought. The entrepreneur's ultimate goal is not simply to accumulate wealth and power, but to reshape society in his own image, to create a world where his vision reigns supreme and all dissent is silenced. He believes that he knows what is best for humanity, and he is willing to use any means necessary to achieve his goals. His actions, though often disguised as altruism or innovation, are ultimately driven by a desire for control, a relentless pursuit of dominance that knows no bounds. This is the essence of dark control, a subtle, insidious manipulation that erodes individual autonomy and undermines the foundations of freedom and democracy. The entrepreneur is not a villain in the traditional sense, but a complex and multifaceted figure, driven by a combination of ambition, idealism, and a profound belief in his own superiority. He is a master of disguise, a wolf in sheep's clothing, who uses charm, charisma, and carefully crafted narratives to conceal his true intentions. His rise to power is a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the seductive allure of technological progress. The key to resisting such manipulation lies in critical thinking, skepticism, and an unwavering commitment to truth and transparency. We must be vigilant in protecting our privacy, safeguarding our autonomy, and challenging those who seek to control our thoughts and behaviors. Only then can we hope to preserve our freedom and prevent the erosion of our democratic values. The tools of control are becoming ever more sophisticated, but the principles of resistance remain the same: awareness, vigilance, and an unwavering commitment to truth. The battle for control is a constant struggle, a never-ending war between those who seek to dominate and those who seek to be free. The outcome of this struggle will determine the future of humanity. The trap for the weak is believing in the inherent goodness of others. They see the world through a lens of naive optimism, attributing benevolent intentions to those who actively seek to exploit them. This inherent trust, while admirable in its purity, becomes a fatal flaw in the arena of power. The manipulator preys on this vulnerability, presenting a facade of empathy and shared values, while meticulously crafting a web of dependence. The weak are eager to believe, desperate for validation and belonging, and thus willingly surrender their autonomy to the charismatic deceiver. They mistake charm for character, eloquence for honesty, and are ultimately ensnared by their own desire to see the best in everyone. This blind faith is not a virtue, but a liability, a gaping hole in their defenses that allows the predator to strike with impunity. The manipulator understands that the easiest way to control someone is to convince them that they are being helped, that their best interests are being served. He offers solutions to their problems, guidance in their confusion, and reassurance in their fears, slowly but surely tightening his grip on their lives. The weak, in their desperation, fail to recognize the strings being attached, the price being demanded for this seemingly selfless assistance. They become indebted, not just financially but emotionally, psychologically, their sense of self gradually eroded by the manipulator's insidious influence. Their world shrinks, their options diminish, until they are entirely dependent on the very person who is systematically dismantling their freedom. The truly strong, however, cultivate a healthy skepticism. They question everything, verify every claim, and trust only what they can independently confirm. They understand that good intentions are no guarantee of good outcomes, and that even the most well-meaning individuals can be mistaken, misguided, or manipulated themselves. They are not cynical, but realistic, recognizing the inherent potential for both good and evil in human nature, and guarding themselves accordingly. They maintain a distance, observing carefully, analyzing objectively, before committing their trust to anyone. This is not coldness but prudence, a necessary shield against the predatory forces that seek to exploit their vulnerabilities. They understand that the world is not a safe place, that there are those who would gladly take advantage of their weaknesses, and they refuse to be naive, unprepared, or easily deceived. Their strength lies not in their unwavering faith, but in their unwavering vigilance, their constant awareness of the dangers that surround them, and their unwavering commitment to protecting their own autonomy. The weak seek comfort in illusions, the strong seek truth in reality, however harsh it may be. The weak are consumed by their fears, the strong are tempered by them. The weak surrender their freedom, the strong defend it at all costs. This is the fundamental difference that separates the predator from the prey, the manipulator from the manipulated, the sovereign from the slave. The trap is not sprung by the manipulator alone, but by the victim's own willingness to walk into it, their own desire for easy answers, quick solutions, and effortless validation. The strong, understanding this inherent weakness, cultivate the discipline to resist these temptations, to endure the discomfort of uncertainty, to embrace the responsibility of independent thought and action. Their strength is not a gift, but a choice, a conscious decision to reject the seductive allure of dependence and to forge their own path, regardless of the obstacles they may face. The Machiavellian approach to control begins with a profound understanding of human nature, stripped bare of sentimental illusions. It acknowledges the inherent capacity for both great virtue and profound vice, recognizing that individuals are driven by a complex interplay of desires, fears, and self-interests. The successful practitioner does not attempt to change these fundamental aspects of human behavior, but rather to understand and exploit them. Instead of moralizing about what asterisk should asterisk be, they coldly analyze what is asterisk, observing the patterns and predictable reactions that govern human interactions. This detached perspective allows them to anticipate the moves of others, to identify their weaknesses, and to craft strategies that leverage these vulnerabilities for their own advantage. This is not about inherent cruelty, but about strategic efficiency. Just as a skilled surgeon cuts with precision to heal, the Machiavellian tactician manipulates with purpose to achieve a desired outcome. The morality of the action is secondary to its effectiveness, a calculus of consequences rather than a judgment of intentions. The focus remains fixed on the objective, an unwavering commitment to achieving the goal, regardless of the ethical compromises that may be necessary. This is the essence of strategic pragmatism, a willingness to do what must be done, even when it is unpleasant or unpopular. The Machiavellian operator sees the world as a complex game of power, where every interaction is a potential opportunity for gain or loss. They approach each situation with a calculated assessment of the risks and rewards, carefully considering their options and choosing the course of action that maximizes their chances of success. They understand that appearances are often deceiving, that people rarely act in accordance with their stated intentions, and that true motives are often hidden beneath layers of deception and self-deceit. Therefore, they rely on observation, analysis, and deduction to uncover the hidden dynamics that drive human behavior, to see through the masks that people wear, and to understand their true motivations. The effective strategist cultivates a mastery of deception, not for the sake of pure malice, but as a necessary tool for navigating a world of conflicting interests. They understand that honesty is often a liability, that transparency can be a weakness, and that the ability to conceal one's true intentions is essential for maintaining control. They learn to craft convincing narratives, to manage perceptions, and to manipulate emotions in order to influence the behavior of others. This requires a deep understanding of psychology, an ability to empathize with the perspectives of others, and a willingness to exploit their emotional vulnerabilities. However, the skilled deceiver is not merely a liar, but a master of suggestion, subtlety, and misdirection. They understand that the most effective lies are those that contain elements of truth, that the most convincing narratives are those that resonate with the existing beliefs and biases of the audience. They avoid blatant falsehoods, preferring instead to subtly shape perceptions, to nudge people in the desired direction, and to allow them to reach their own conclusions, believing that they are acting independently. This art of subtle manipulation requires patience, discipline, and a keen understanding of human psychology. It is not about forcing people to do what they do not want to do, but about creating the conditions in which they choose to act in accordance with the manipulator's desires. The manipulation becomes invisible, the puppet dances without seeing the strings, and the victim remains blissfully unaware of the forces that are shaping their actions. This is the ultimate goal of the Machiavellian strategist: to achieve complete control without leaving a trace of coercion, to influence the world without being seen, and to shape the destinies of others without their knowledge or consent. But remember, knowledge of these techniques provides defense against them. The more aware you are of the possible manipulations, the less likely you are to fall victim to them. Recognize the patterns and avoid the traps. The rise and fall of empires is a brutal theater where these dark arts of control are practiced on a grand scale. Consider the Roman Empire, its expansion fueled not only by military might, but by a carefully cultivated image of benevolent leadership. Conquered peoples were often granted citizenship, offered infrastructure improvements, and integrated into the Roman system, creating a sense of shared destiny and loyalty. This was not mere altruism. It was a calculated strategy to pacify conquered territories, to extract resources more efficiently, and to prevent rebellions. The Romans understood that direct oppression could be counterproductive, fostering resentment and resistance. Instead, they offered incentives, appealing to the self-interest of the conquered and slowly eroding their cultural identity and autonomy. They built roads, aqueducts, and public baths, not just for the benefit of the people, but as symbols of Roman power and sophistication, subtly reinforcing the idea that Roman rule was superior and inevitable. They used propaganda to demonize their enemies, portraying them as barbarians and threats to civilization, justifying their own expansion as a necessary act of self-defense. The Roman legions were not only instruments of war, but also symbols of order and stability, offering protection from external threats and internal chaos. This combination of military force, economic incentives, and cultural manipulation allowed the Romans to build and maintain a vast empire for centuries. The strategies employed in warfare provide a stark illustration of manipulative techniques. Deception is paramount. Sun Tzu, in The Art of War*, emphasizes the importance of appearing weak when strong, and strong when weak, of creating illusions to confuse the enemy and lure them into traps. Intelligence gathering is crucial, not only to understand the enemy's strengths and weaknesses, but also to identify their vulnerabilities, their biases, and their psychological weaknesses. A skilled commander exploits these vulnerabilities, using disinformation, propaganda, and psychological warfare to demoralize the enemy, to sow discord among their ranks, and to undermine their will to fight. The Trojan horse is a classic example of deception, using a seemingly generous gift to infiltrate the enemy's defenses. The element of surprise is also key, launching attacks when and where the enemy least expects it, disrupting their plans and creating panic. A commander might feign a retreat to lure the enemy into an ambush, or spread rumors to create confusion and distrust. The goal is not simply to defeat the enemy on the battlefield, but to break their spirit, to undermine their confidence, and to make them believe that resistance is futile. This requires a deep understanding of human psychology, the ability to anticipate the enemy's reactions, and a willingness to exploit their emotional weaknesses. The ultimate objective is to win the war without fighting, to achieve victory through manipulation and deception, to break the enemy's will to resist before a single sword is drawn. A modern example can be seen in the strategic misinformation campaigns conducted during wartime, aiming to sway public opinion both at home and abroad, to delegitimize the enemy, and to justify military action. These campaigns often rely on emotionally charged narratives, exploiting people's fears and prejudices, and carefully crafted propaganda to shape their perceptions of the conflict. The aim is to control the narrative, to frame the war in a way that supports the desired outcome, and to ensure that the public remains supportive of the war effort. The application of these dark arts of control goes far beyond the battlefield. It delves into the very core of human psychology, exploiting our innate vulnerabilities and predictable patterns of behavior. Our minds, despite all their complexity, are susceptible to manipulation, influenced by emotions, biases, and a constant need for validation. The skilled manipulator understands these weaknesses and uses them to his advantage, subtly guiding our thoughts and actions, often without us even realizing it. Consider the power of suggestion, a technique used to implant ideas into the subconscious, influencing our decisions and perceptions. This can be as simple as a carefully worded phrase, a repeated suggestion, or a strategically placed image, all designed to bypass our conscious defenses and take root in our minds. A politician, for example, might use emotionally charged language to evoke feelings of fear or anger, swaying public opinion towards a particular policy or action. Or a salesman might use subtle cues and suggestive techniques to create a sense of urgency, pressuring a customer into making a purchase they might otherwise not consider. The key is to understand the psychological triggers that motivate human behavior and to use them in a way that serves one's own interests. Another powerful tool in the arsenal of control is the manipulation of information, carefully curating the flow of data to shape perceptions and control narratives. This can involve withholding critical information, distorting facts, or spreading misinformation, all with the goal of creating a desired outcome. A corporation, for example, might suppress negative information about its products, highlighting only the positive aspects to maintain its brand image and protect its profits. Or a government might censor news and information to control public opinion and suppress dissent. The ability to control the flow of information is a powerful weapon, allowing the manipulator to shape the reality that others perceive and to control their thoughts and actions accordingly. This control is not always overt. It can be subtle, insidious, and deeply ingrained in the systems and structures of society. The use of emotional manipulation is particularly effective, targeting our deepest fears, desires, and insecurities. This can involve playing on our need for approval, exploiting our vulnerabilities, or creating a sense of guilt or shame. A toxic relationship, for example, might involve constant criticism and emotional abuse, designed to erode the victim's self-esteem and make them dependent on the abuser. Or a cult leader might use charismatic persuasion and emotional appeals to brainwash followers, convincing them to abandon their families and dedicate their lives to the cult's cause. The ability to manipulate emotions is a potent tool, allowing the manipulator to control the thoughts and actions of others by exploiting their emotional weaknesses. This requires a deep understanding of human psychology, the ability to empathize with others, and a willingness to use that empathy for manipulative purposes. Furthermore, understanding the principles of social engineering is crucial. Social engineering involves manipulating people into divulging confidential information or performing actions that compromise security. This can be achieved through impersonation, phishing, or exploiting trust and authority. A hacker, for example, might impersonate a system administrator to gain access to sensitive data, or a con artist might use flattery and persuasion to swindle someone out of their money. The success of social engineering relies on exploiting human vulnerabilities, such as our tendency to trust authority figures, our desire to be helpful, and our fear of being seen as ignorant or incompetent. By understanding these vulnerabilities, the skilled manipulator can bypass technical security measures and gain access to valuable information or resources. The ultimate goal is to exploit human psychology to achieve a desired outcome, whether it's stealing money, gaining access to information, or disrupting systems. Finally, the dark arts of control often involve the use of psychological warfare, designed to demoralize, confuse, and destabilize an opponent. This can involve spreading propaganda, creating fear and uncertainty, or undermining their confidence and morale. A political campaign, for example, might use negative advertising to attack an opponent's character or policies, eroding their public support and damaging their reputation. Or a military force might use psychological operations to demoralize enemy troops, weakening